So conviction not only deals with my God correcting me concerning my morality and those things that I do wrong, but my conviction is what I hold strongly, those things that I believe strongly. Look at somebody, say, I have conviction. I have conviction. So listen to this. This is important. What I believe enables me to set up boundaries. What I believe enables me to set up boundaries. In other words, I derive my moral values from what I believe. And so based on what I believe, this is where my convictions come from. If I'm not sure of what I believe, then I don't have a set place of morals and boundaries. But when I know what I believe, now God has something where he can convict me from. If I'm not sure what I believe, I don't have boundaries. Somebody shout conviction. Conviction. God communicates to your conscience, and the Spirit of God convicts your conscience. Okay? Now, let's get deeper. We also went to 1 Corinthians 8:12. And you write this down, you can go back and read it later. It says, but when you sin against the brethren, here's something very powerful. I need you to listen to me and be disciplined tonight. And wound their weak conscience, you sin against Christ. 1 Corinthians 8:12. Somebody said, let my pastor teach. But when you thus sin against the brethren, here it is, you wound their weak conscience. And so my conscience can be wounded. Write that down. My conscience can be wounded. The word wounded there means my conscience can be injured. Anything that is injured will not function to its complete capacity, or cannot perform to the level that it was created to perform. If someone in sports is on injured reserve, that means they're still on the team, but they can't perform at the moment because of that injury. And so when your conscience has been injured, even though you may still have a conscience, it's not performing up to that capacity in which it should. Somebody say, you can injure my conscience. And so Paul is warning the church, be careful how you treat one another, because you can injure someone's conscience. And so when my conscience is injured, it becomes weak. When my conscience is weak, my morals become weak. When my morals are weak, I begin to step out and do things that I normally wouldn't do because my conscience has been weakened. But it is very possible that your injury caused somebody's conscience to be weak, and you're saying, what happened? You happened. You happened. You sinned against Christ because you injured that brother. That's why Paul was saying, he says, listen, if eating meat offends my brother, he says, I want to offend brother. I want to eat meat because I would rather not eat meat and not affect my brother than eat meat and offend my brother. He was saying, in other words, I have such love for the household of faith. There are some things I deprive myself of personally so that I won't hurt somebody else. Look at somebody, say, have you injured anybody? Have you hurt someone's conscience? Do you know how many people have been ran out of ministries because they've been injured? Because they've been hurt by words, by lies, by offenses. Hallelujah. Look at somebody, say, don't injure my conscience. So write that down. My conscience can be injured. It can be hurt. It can be wounded. It can be weakened. My conscience can be weakened. Weakened means liable to yield. Listen to this definition. Break or collapse under pressure. The weaker my conscience is, the most likely it is to break under pressure. And so when I don't have a strong conscience, my conscience is weak, it's subject to break. And so that's why some people can't resist temptation, because now their conscience is weak. When you have a strong conscience, you can set up strong boundaries, because your conscience is directly linked to what you believe. And because you have a strong conscience, there are times you're not willing to step outside of what you believe, because that's where your convictions lie. You said, no, I'm not doing this. What sustained Joseph against Potiphar's wife? Because Joseph had convictions. He was not willing to step over those boundaries and transgress the law of God. It wasn't that he wasn't tempted. It wasn't that she wasn't beautiful. But his conscience will not allow him to step over those boundaries. That's why it's important that you keep your conscience strong. Somebody say, I need a strong conscience. Listen, I'm going to quick review. All right, then we went to, listen at this, write this down. 1 Timothy 1:19. Somebody say, take notes. This is very powerful because this is Apostle Paul again. He says, having faith, here it is, and somebody say, and means connection. Means you need something else in addition. Having faith and a good conscience.